Mrs. Mitchell, you have been found guilty of disorderly conduct, public drunkenness, and resisting arrest.
Susan, do something!
I'm suing everyone!
Are we done?
Sure.
Hey, sorry, huge backup on the expressway.
Those lab results are back. She wants us there at 9 tomorrow.
Your son needs a kidney transplant. There's a good chance someone in your family can be a match.
I have not seen or heard from my father in 30 years. I have no idea if he's dead or alive.
Mackenzie.
Hello, Yale. Your grandson needs a kidney from an O-negative donor.
Okay, I'll do it. For 25,000.
Last Amtrak to Philly leaves at 12:15. This is a business deal. My son thinks that you died when I was 9.
Who are you?
I'm Mr. Heimovitz.
You have to stay and take all the tests.
So how's the writing coming?
So great. I need the money now.
This isn't a drug deal. Did you know my grandfather too?
He's a great guy.
You must be Yale.
I am a comedian.
More like a clown.
You're in heart failure.
What does that mean?
It means he'd probably die on the operating table. Is there any other family member we can turn to?
How did you convince 8 women to marry you?
I made them all laugh. Mildred, you look great.
What was the plan with your families?
Hi, I'm Yale.
Do you know where we're going?
No idea. Well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
I may have messed up, but I stayed, and I'm still here.
Am I gonna die?
As long as he's around, you've got nothing to talk about.
The kid is your nephew. You can choose your friend, but you can't choose your family.
The good guys never take no for an answer,
But the good guys don't always win.
but they always try.
Perfect. So, hi again. It's nice to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Do you know how many people in the United States have mentioned you and the expertise of your show and the allure of how wonderful your questions are to the filmmakers?
No.
Well, it could be that way.
Maybe one day.
Well, let's just pretend like it's now.
Okay, I like that idea. Thank you.
You got it.
So first I wanted to ask you, we're here today to talk about your film Jay. No, your name's Jay. Oh my goodness. We're here to talk about your film Yale. That's the right name. What first got you involved in the project? Or how did you first get involved as
Yale was written by a gentleman named Van Bullitt, who is from Philadelphia, and this would be the second film that I directed that he wrote. We made a film together that's called Saving Paradise, about a pencil factory in I forgot where it's from. It's been 3 or 4 years. But anyways, we made a wonderful film called Saving Paradise. And long story short, he had a script called Yale, and it was on the blacklist, and it became a highly praised indie screenplay. And we started talking about that while we were making Saving Paradise. And the conclusion of it is that we started reviewing it and started engaging. And then I made a decision to make it 5 years ago. And it took 5 years to kind of like make it work because it's, as you know, a complicated story.
For sure. And when you first heard about the story and like it being from based on Van's maternal grandfather, can you speak about like what was your first reaction with that having been like a family occurrence for him?
What was your question again? I apologize.
That's okay.
I had a hearing aid and I took it out of my ear.
No, I don't know. Like if you feel comfortable, like what was your first reaction upon like hearing that this is like kind of his family story?
It was extraordinary because Yale, number one, is associated in the United States and probably also UK with an Ivy League school. And subsequently, to have a name like Yale is alluring already. And then the fact that this was his grandfather, the screenwriter's grandfather, was very alluring, And then we started to learn about this man. And, I'll be candid with you. There's very few people I've ever encountered in my life that are like this character. This character is very unique and is quite extraordinary. And his daughter, who is the protagonist along with him, is a character that's very unique too, but is very relatable to young people like yourself and people my age, because life carries with it, complexities, and Yale is probably one of the highest on the list of complexity of being an individual that is challenged.
For sure. And you just spoke about the protagonist's daughter, who would be Van's mother, or from that perspective, right? And then I was in your director's notes, you were talking about how you felt a connection to Mac as you're a father and she's a mother, and being there for your children. Do you think this helped in the way you were directing the film and how you worked with
Yeah,
Van on it itself, bringing a person?
it helped me hugely because I think every filmmaker has to find something. I'm talking mostly independent filmmakers. You gotta have something that's not just a great story or not just a great movie idea, but something that is very personal. And I have three young daughters, probably in your age group, and you know, uh, they've been through some challenges in their lives. And for me to understand the character of Mac and her journey was not difficult for me to understand. Um, and I also think, I make movies predominantly with only one thing in mind, and that is to deliver a positive message socially. And uh, the journey that this character takes with her deadbeat father is really quite unique. And it's, from her standpoint, mandatory because in order for her to save her son's life, she needs to reach out to a man that abandoned her when she was 9 years old. So now here we are 30 years later, and she's got to do the unthinkable thing and reconnect with a man that she doesn't even know and that she's held, just an inordinate amount of emotional energy in her soul throughout her whole life relating to something that had happened with her, with him, many years ago. And it is something that I think most audiences can relate to because we don't resolve these things as quickly as they do in movies.
Yeah.
In real life, you carry them like a bag.
In films like these, it always feels like no matter how, like, you somehow you know where it's going, because like you want, or you assume you know where it's going because you want that reconciliation, that change in the person's perspective on life, and it always feels somehow more personal when it's a parent or a child and a parent. So in this case, it's two generations of children and parents, because it's Yale and Matt getting like not reconciling in a total sense, but like their relationship changing, and then even Mac and Ryan's relationship changing. Um, so having it being based on a true story, how did you and Van work together to keep it true to his, like, I'm not sure if you could speak about how true he kept it to his story, but you still had, as much as it comes from a true story, to keep it that there, but add the dramatic elements to make it more
Well, I
fiction.
mean, that's what happened during those 5 years. You develop what are, keystones to the truth, and then you develop a filmmaker's, uh, a journey in trying to make it entertaining and also make it something that can be done for a budget of an independent movie. And of course, in my case, producing a movie that we only have a budget for 18 days. So all this stuff is taken in consideration when I'm sitting with the screenwriter. Now, in this particular case, Van Billet, who became very close friends with me, he lives in Philadelphia where the movie takes place, but he spends, multiple trips to Los Angeles working with my team, Bethany and Joe Gamache, to take a look at the script in a way that is approachable in respect to trying to be keen on respecting the material and his life, but simultaneously putting, real actors in the shoes of people that are in the movie.
Yeah. Speaking about the real actors, how did you go with working with Kevin and Caitlin in their portrayals of Yale and Mac? Because I also read in the director's notes and the production notes that like it's it does make sense because Yale and Mac are both two they ha they're introduced to us as two unlikable types of characters and personas, but you want us to be able to connect with them because we want to follow their journey until the end to see what happens. So how did you work with your actors?
Well, that's a good question because I will say to you that number one, Caitlin, had a very difficult challenge as an actress to not only, I mean, let me just praise the material. You can't expect Caitlin or Kevin to produce anything as talented as they are without a great script. And in many cases as an example, Caitlin not only delivered, but, so much more because in so many ways she could have failed and she didn't. And it's an allure. And Kevin, who's been around for, over 45 years creating, hundreds of films, is, dramatically probably the first film he's in every scene versus, on a TV series or what have you, appearing at the beginning of an episode or in the middle or in a, in a capacity that isn't requiring him to stay in character for 18 days and expose himself as a character that is challenged. And, you said it correctly. I described the two characters as being like terrorists because both of them are broken. They're
Yeah.
just broken people. And as a filmmaker, to have to make them likable, but tell the true story, was something that I've been challenged with trying to answer the question, how did I do it? I don't know how I did it, but whatever I can say to you is if you bought into it, which it sounds like you did, the reality is that I give a lot of the credit to the collaboration between the writer, myself, and the actors being able to understand the material. And if you interview filmmakers, which you do, on independent films, you don't have the budget to spend weeks getting to know each other and spend weeks rehearsing the material. And that's why we spent 5 years developing this project because we wanted it to be thought out, not like, why did we have this character do this? It doesn't add or plus the movie. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Did you over the five would you was it over the 5 years as well when you were able to find Kevin and Caitlin, or was that like closer to the start of the filming and the end of?
Well, when I started developing the screenplay to my adjustments, I made another movie called Camera in between with Beau Bridges. And that movie, took me away for 2 years, but I always was working on Yale. I did not want Yale to get in front of cameras until we really believed we were ready.
Mhm.
And one thing I learned from Beau Bridges, which is a huge thing, is less is more. And the idea that a screenplay, specifically, with a material as complex as this movie is, sometimes, and most of the time, less is more. So you don't need an actor to over-explain something. You can get it in an expression. So you always fear as a screenwriter or a producer and a director that, well, if she doesn't say she's heartbroken because she lost a loved one, then how do we know that? Well, we got to give the audience a little credit here, you know. A lot of movies, especially in the United States, come on these big um, portholes, like Netflix and Amazon and so forth. And you can see they did not spend the time needed to develop the material to make you believe that an expression could float. As a matter of fact, just since we're talking about filmmaking, that was one of the criticisms Ben Affleck and his team, Matt Damon, were complaining about. Because they wanted, and this is like for your audience in the UK, probably more fascinating than the ones in America, but it's a fascinating thing to wake up in the morning and be told that you got to reiterate the plot line for Netflix in order to deliver the material because the audience is multitasking and they're distracted. So you got to remind them this is a caper movie, you know what I mean? And that woman is the protagonist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, as sad as it is, that is, and I mean, I was able to watch Yale through a screener, so it's not the same thing as the big screen, but that is why I believe the big screen's the best place to see the film, because
Oh yeah.
then you're just there and you gotta lock in, and if you can't lock in, then don't be there.
It's a fascinating deal because I'm praying and hopeful that people go back to theaters. It seems in the United States that people are starting to because there's a lot of really good movies
Mhm.
currently, and there wasn't, over the last 4 years, except for blockbusters. And when you see a movie that's engaging. I mean, like for example, I just saw the Michael Jackson movie. It's a brilliant work of storytelling, but at the same time, I would have never watched that on television.
Yes.
It would have looked like a docudrama. But to
Mhm.
see it in an IMAX and get that vibe with the music, I grew up with it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, you might have an entirely different opinion, but that's part of the experience of feeling the filmmaker's vision. And currently, that's how they're promoting the Odyssey, because you go see it in a big screen, you're going to see, that the resolution is all IMAX and all this stuff is great. But if the story's not there, you got nothing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Speaking of the story, at what point, maybe not even like what before when you got the script, while you got the script, if it was at any point like in the filmmaking process, what aspect of the script of Yale told you that it would make be a compelling drama and like drive its audience?
I'm developing another movie right now, and I answer your question by thinking about what I'm going through right now. My dream is to extrapolate the written word into a real life experience. And in all my movies, it's super important to me to ignite that emotion. And for me to show a story about someone that's so unique as Yale and someone that's so kind of complex like his daughter Mac, one has to ask yourself, why you go to a movie to begin with. And it's fascinating because I've now done 10 podcasts, for this movie. And I'm not exaggerating. Three of the podcasters, your age, have told stories to me that are identical to the movie. Meaning, one guy says, I had my DNA checked recently and I realized my father wasn't my father. Another person, shared a story where her grandfather and her were having dinner and she said goodbye for the evening and never saw her grandfather again the rest of her life. He just vanished. Those are stories that fascinate me. And I do believe, the audience will enjoy it.
I believe so too, because it's like it's nice to know that it's not in the sense that someone had to go through this, but it's nice to know that it's based on a true story because the way in which it drives forward is it has the elements there that you want to know what happens next. So thank you for that. And do you think that would you say that you want to, you'll keep making movies that are like this, that are personal stories and that or even just have the element of a personal story within them?
I think so because they're relatable, you know. I mean, it's it's super interesting. The first movie I made was called Girl on the Edge, and it was about a young 15-year-old encountering a rape, which happens to be my youngest, one of my daughters, and you know, the whole allure of why I turned it into a movie with her permission was because I think her life was saved by equine therapy, coping with post-traumatic stress. So when I share that with you, you can understand where my heart was and why I made the movie. Because I've never heard of that type of a treatment for a young girl that was suffering from, you know, being ridiculed on social media and then waking up in the morning and wondering who she is and what she can do to move forward. It saved her life, you know, and so that motivated me to help other children, you know. In this movie, I think there isn't one person that I've that's seen the movie that hasn't said I can relate to it, because we're all human beings that have histories that are complicated.
Yeah, and you can for sure feel that in the story, and it's nice to be able to see just how each character changes as a person and what comes from it, because there is elements that everyone can relate to, whether it's as Ryan or as Mac or as Yale or even as the Mac's publicist. Every character is feels like a real person.
That's quite a compliment. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you
How
for
did it affect you?
it was I mean, I don't have a story as personal as that. It's just I do feel like you don't you don't it just it's sad to see, but it's nice, like it's the ending's nice to see too, because like have seeing that what a parent will do for their child, like even if they're the worst person in the world, that being able to see a parent change who they are, just to save their kid, even if it's not in a physical sense, if it's an emotional sense, if it's in a mental sense. It's it was I feel like that's what hit me the most, was being able to see as an adult that I mean anyone can change, anyone can say the same, but it's the power to be able to change that I found the most
Well,
impactful.
thank you.
So thank you.
That was a message that I wanted to convey.
Perfect. Well, it works. So thank you, and thank you also for sitting down with me and talking about your film.
It's my pleasure. I'm super grateful. And if there's anything else you want to add, go ahead. The movie doesn't have a distributor yet, but hopefully people will take a look at the trailer.
I hope so too, and I hope people get the chance to see it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too. Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye.